Have you ever noticed how the smallest moments can change your whole life? That's exactly what happened to me one rainy weekend when I was home alone. For the first time, my name is Olivia, and my parents had just left for a special trip to celebrate their wedding anniversary. They would be gone until Monday. Before leaving, Mom stuck a note on the refrigerator that said, "We'll be back Monday. Don't have any crazy parties. Love you." I smiled when I read it, but the smile didn't last long. The house felt so different without anyone else there. Our old clock ticked loudly in the hallway. The washing machine made humming sounds from the laundry room. Even the floor creaked in ways I had never noticed before. I always thought I wanted to be independent and have the house to myself. But now that it was really happening, I felt nervous and unsure. The afternoon sun came through the windows and made yellow lines on the walls. I poured some iced tea into a glass and walked to the living room without my shoes on. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lucas asking if he could come over for game night. Just the two of us. My heart started beating really fast. Lucas wasn't just any friend. He lived 3 houses away from me, and we had known each other since we were little kids. When we were 6 years old, he helped me build a fort in his backyard. He taught me how to throw flat rocks across the water at the creek. Whenever I forgot my lunch at school, he always shared his sandwich with me. But something had been different between us lately. I couldn't explain it exactly, but the way he looked at me now was not the same as before. There was something new in his smile and in the quiet moments when we were together. I stared at his message for a long time. My brain told me to act normal and not make a big deal out of it. But my heart was telling me something completely different. Finally, I typed back, "Okay, come over at 7. As soon as I sent the message, everything felt different. The house suddenly seemed smaller and warmer, and I felt more awake than before. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I took a big breath before opening the door. Lucas stood there with his easy smile, holding a board game under one arm, and a bag of chips and snacks in his other hand. He wore a dark blue shirt and old jeans, and his smile made me forget what I was going to say. "Special delivery for game night," he said with a big grin. I laughed and moved aside so he could come in. "You're right on time. You said 7 o'clock. That sounded pretty important," he said. "Important?" I asked, confused. He shrugged like it was no big deal. "You never know. Maybe you really wanted to see me." I tried not to smile as we walked to the living room. It was a cozy room with soft pillows everywhere and candles that smelled like vanilla. Lucas put the game on the coffee table and looked around. "It feels weird," he said. "Your house seems so empty without your family here." "Yeah," I agreed as I sat down on the couch. "It's never this quiet." We sat down close to each other, maybe closer than we needed to be. I tried not to notice when his shoulder touched mine, as he reached for the game pieces. We talked about which game to play and finally picked one we had played many times. When we were younger. We started playing, but I couldn't really focus. Every little thing he did seemed important. Every time he laughed, every word he said, everything felt new and different. It wasn't just my friend Lucas anymore. It was something more, and I could feel this strange new feeling hanging in the air between us. He leaned back and stretched his arms, and I realized I was watching him longer than I should have been. "What?" he asked, smiling like he knew a secret. "Nothing," I said quickly, looking away. "You've just changed." He laughed. "That's what happens when people get older. I guess we both have," I said softly. We sat quietly for a moment. The evening light came through the windows and made patterns on our faces. I could feel my heart beating in my throat, though I didn't know why. While we were in the middle of our game, the sky outside got really dark. Black clouds rolled in, and rain started hitting the windows harder and harder. Then we heard thunder rumbling far away. Lucas looked toward the window. "Your house looks like a scary movie now," he joked. I smiled nervously. Good thing you're here then. A super loud crack of thunder shook the house, and I jumped without thinking. I grabbed onto his arm without meaning to. He stopped moving completely. Our eyes met, and neither of us looked away. All we could hear was the rain hitting the roof and windows. It was the kind of quiet that makes time slow down, where you can hear your own heartbeat louder than anything else. His voice was soft and gentle. Are you okay? I nodded but didn't let go of his arm. Yeah, I just wasn't ready for it to be so loud. He smiled a little. You used to love thunderstorms when we were kids. I still do, I said quietly. Just not when I'm by myself. And there it was. The truth I hadn't meant to say. It floated between us, feeling warm and delicate. The lights blinked once, then twice, and then everything went completely dark. The room was filled with the sound of rain and nothing else. The power went out, Lucas said, turning on his phone's flashlight. The bright light landed on my face, and I blinked back at him. For just a moment, everything else disappeared. He gave me the flashlight and our fingers touched slightly. Hold this, he said softly. I nodded, trying not to think about how close he was sitting to me. The air felt different now, still but buzzing with energy. It was the kind of stillness that comes right before something important happens. We laughed and pretended. We needed to find the electrical box to fix the lights. But we both knew this wasn't really about the electricity. It was about all the feelings that had been growing between us for years. When the lights finally came back on, part of me wished they had stayed off. The bright light made everything feel too obvious and too real. Lucas sat back down on the couch, his voice quiet. Are you okay now? Yes, I whispered, my heart still beating too fast. Just a little scared. He looked at me with a small smile. You know, he said carefully, I think this is the first time we've been alone like this. Really alone, is it? I said, even though I knew he was right. Yeah, he replied. It feels different. I tilted my head. Different how? He didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on mine longer than normal. Just different, he said finally. I wanted to ask what he meant. I wanted to tell him how my heart felt strange every time he smiled at me lately. But before I could say anything, my phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. I picked it up. It was a message from my mom saying, Hope you're being good. Love you, sweetheart. I typed a quick answer back, pretending my hands weren't shaking a little. When I looked up again, Lucas was watching me carefully. Not like a friend or the boy from down the street, but like someone who had just realized something important. And I felt it too. Something was changing quietly, right there between us. It was almost 10 o'clock when the rain finally stopped. The night outside had become calm again, with raindrops on the windows catching the porch light. I walked Lucas to the front door, and everything we hadn't said felt heavy in the air. He turned around, smiling gently. Thanks for game night. I guess I protected you from the storm. I smiled back. Yes, you did. For a second, neither of us moved. The air felt warm again, even though the storm had made everything outside cool. I could smell the rain on his shirt, fresh and clean like the earth after rainfall. Good night, he said finally. I nodded. Good night, Lucas. He stepped onto the porch, then stopped and turned back around. Olivia? Yeah? He seemed like he was trying to find the right words. I'm glad you asked me to come over. Me too, I said softly. He smiled, then walked down the porch steps. I watched him go down the driveway until I couldn't see him anymore in the darkness. I closed the door slowly and leaned against it, my heart still racing. Everything about tonight had felt different. The storm, the darkness, the way he had looked at me. And I knew for sure that nothing between us would ever be exactly the same again. I went upstairs to my bedroom, changed into my pajamas, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying every moment, every word, every look. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. I forgot to say something. My heart jumped. I typed back, "What?" There was a long pause. Then his answer came. "I've been wanting to tell you something for a long time now. I just didn't know how." I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. "Tell me what?" Another pause. Then, somewhere between building forts and tonight, you stopped being just my friend. I stared at the screen, reading the words 3 times. My hands were shaking as I typed, "Lucas ... I know the timing is probably really bad," his next message said. "And maybe this changes everything." But I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Tears filled my eyes, but not because I was sad. They were happy tears because I was hearing words I didn't know I had been waiting to hear. I typed carefully, "You're not the only one who's been pretending." The 3 little dots appeared showing he was typing. And they disappeared, then came back again. Finally, his message came through. "So what do we do now?" I smiled through my tears and typed, "I guess we stop pretending." His answer came almost instantly. "I can do that." I laughed quietly, wiping my eyes. "Good night, Lucas." "Good night, Olivia." "Sweet dreams." I put the phone on my nightstand and lay back down, still smiling. Outside, the clouds had moved away, and I could see stars in the sky. The storm was over, but something new had started. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of what would happen next. The next morning, I woke up to sunshine coming through my window and a new message on my phone. "Meet me at the creek. Same place as when we were kids. I'll bring breakfast." I smiled, typed, "I'll be there in 20 minutes," and got ready faster than ever before. When I got to the creek, Lucas was already sitting on the old wooden bridge with a bag of donuts and 2 cups of coffee. He looked up when he heard me coming, and smiled that smile that now made my heart do flips. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I replied, sitting down next to him. We sat quietly for a moment, watching the water flow under the bridge. The morning sun made everything look golden and beautiful. "So," he said after a while, "I guess we should probably talk about last night." "Probably," I agreed, though I couldn't stop smiling. He handed me a coffee. "I've been thinking about this for months, maybe even longer. I just didn't know if you felt the same way, and I didn't want to mess up our friendship." "You didn't mess up anything," I said gently. "You just made it more real." He looked at me then, really looked at me with those eyes I had known my whole life, but was now seeing completely differently. "I really like you, Olivia. Not as my friend from down the street, but as more than that." "I really like you too," I admitted, my voice quiet but sure. "And honestly, I think I have for a while. I just didn't know how to say it." He smiled, and relief spread across his face. "So we're doing this? Whatever this is?" "I think we are," I said, laughing softly. "Though I have no clue what we're doing." "Me neither," he admitted. "But I think that's okay. We'll figure it out together." I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in months. Together sounds perfect. We sat there until the coffee got cold, and the donuts were gone, talking about everything and nothing, making plans and laughing about old memories. And when he walked me back home later that morning, he took my hand without asking, and I let him, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. When we reached my house, he stopped and turned to face me. "So same time tomorrow?" "Definitely," I said, squeezing his hand. He smiled, leaned in, and kissed my forehead gently. "Good, because I'm not very good at pretending anymore." "Good," I replied, smiling up at him. "Because neither am I." I watched him walk away, this time knowing he would be back tomorrow, and the day after that, and all the days after that. The uncertainty was gone, replaced by something solid and real and completely ours. Inside the house, I leaned against the closed door and smiled to myself. Last night I had been afraid of the silence and being alone. But now I understood I had never really been alone at all. I had just been waiting for the right moment, the right words, and the right person to help me see what had been there all along. Sometimes the biggest changes happen in the quietest moments. Sometimes the person you've been looking for has been right beside you the whole time. And sometimes all it takes is one stormy night and the courage to finally tell the truth. My phone buzzed one more time. Lucas again. By the way, I'm really glad your parents went away this weekend. I laughed and typed back, me too. Me too. And with that, everything that had changed the night before didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something I hadn't known I was waiting for. Something real, something honest, something worth every moment of uncertainty that had brought us here. The storm had passed. The silence had been broken. And love had arrived when I least expected it, in the form of someone who had been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to step forward and say what we both had been too afraid to say. Sometimes that's how the best stories begin. Not with big dramatic moments or fancy speeches, but with simple truth spoken between two people who finally stopped pretending and started being honest about their feelings. And this, I knew, was just the beginning.